What's going on, everybody? Karthik here from UZ Marketing, and today I'm going to go over the fundamentals of search engine optimization. Pretty much, this is just like a podcast episode going over like the absolute fundamentals. Like we're not going to talk about advanced stuff. We're not going to talk about even like intermediate or even kind of beginner stuff. This is just like fundamental stuff. There's plenty of information out there on like advanced stuff and beginner stuff and all that, but basically, from what I know and from what I've researched over the past few years, there are some fundamental things that stick out to me, and those things pretty much haven't changed. Even though the Google's algorithm, the way that Google shows search results has changed dramatically. In fact, every 3 months or 6 months, a new update is made to the search engine, the way that the search engine actually displays results, and sometimes those are some major changes, and it can really affect. If you were on first place at this time, you might actually be blacklisted the next update if you don't follow the fundamentals. So what I'm going to share with you guys here is just the fundamental. Like, this stuff has not changed since the very beginning, and how you take this information and take action on that is pretty much going to be up to you, like the way that you do that, but the fundamentals is going to be the same from now until the end of time, for the most part anyway, unless like we do visual search in the future where we're searching by animated videos, or like whatever we can't think of today in 2021. We're typing things into the search engines and we're talking into Alexa now, but you don't know what we could do in 5, 10, 15 years. But anyway, without further ado, let me go straight into it. So one of the first things, and this is actually a tip more than a fundamental of search engine optimization, the first two things are going to be tips. First one is get a Google My Business page, and it's completely free. You can go to Google and search for Google My Business, and you can set up a free page for your business. And essentially, it's like a free marketing platform. Let's say, for instance, you're in the pressure washing business, or even better yet, let's say you're in the yard sign business, right? Let's say you make a Google My Business page for yard signs, and a customer near you is searching for yard signs. Then your business is going to pop up because you were on Google as an actual location that offers yard signs. Now let's extrapolate that out into pressure washing, right? There's probably a lot of pressure washing companies out there, but how many of them actually have a Google My Business page? There's many that don't have a Google My Business page, and this is like one of the super easy things. You can set it up within a few minutes. Like, to be fair, it might take more than a couple minutes if you don't have a Google account at all. Maybe like 5-10 minutes if you're not even computer or phone savvy, but it's really easy. It's super simple. And if you mess around with Google products at all throughout the course of the day, it's super simple to set up. And the thing about that, is it's not just having a Google My Business page. It's also constantly updating it with recent things. Let's use the pressure washing business as an example again, right? Pressure washing business is constantly doing pressure washing work. And what is the pressure washer doing at every job site? Most likely they're taking pictures to add to their portfolio, right? And if they're doing that, they can very easily, while they're at it, like take a picture, while they're at it, within 15 seconds, go onto the Google My Business page, post that picture, be like, using keywords that is in your industry, put a post with that picture. Say something like, pressure washed a house in suburbia town near Metropolis City. And those words that you used in that post, even if it doesn't have that big of a impact, it's probably like 5 to 10% impact that it's actually having on the search engine results page. So if you do this a consistent enough amount of times, you're basically signaling to the Google search engine that your business is constantly putting up pictures and posts and is an active business and is a real business. So it's telling people that it's telling the search engine, but it's also telling people that you're a real business, and that all those pictures are there for the prospective customers to look at. So they don't just see a piece of marketing on their door. Maybe you leave a door hanger or a yard sign. They see a yard sign and they look up your company, but they don't find any activity, so they don't have any sense of understanding who you are or what you do. Having that Google My Business page not only serves for SEO, but also for like credibility purposes. So it's that tip, definitely a must have in any business's arsenal. Get a Google My Business page. Second one is it's just parallel to that. Have a Facebook page. And Facebook is basically very similar to Google in the fact that it's a very powerful advertising and marketing platform, but it functions in a totally different way because the Facebook page isn't often showed up very high on the search engine results pages on Google, but you will see from time to time that a Facebook post will show up in the Google search engine feed. Now, the reason that this is still considered fundamentals of search engine optimization in my mind is because it's literally just a parallel to Google My Business. If you're taking pictures of your job site every single day, then you should be posting it, no matter whether it's in Google or on Facebook. Why not both? You have the picture, you have the assets, so you can put it on both platforms. And this really helps whenever you essentially get a Facebook advertising account and you start marketing on Facebook. Having that constant stream of credibility and social proof that you're a real business and you're doing real work, that goes a long way. And even though that's not search engine optimization, it's technically search marketing or even like social engine optimization, if that is even a thing. Those still are very useful tips to have in your arsenal. So, recap. Get Google, get Facebook, and update them both constantly. It doesn't have to be fancy. Just use keywords that you normally use in your industry. Pressure washing houses in your city. So, you'll be surprised how much impact it has if you do that for a year, and enjoy. So, next, okay? This is original content. That's the topic. That's the actual bullet point, but it's been unchanged for a long time. Maybe 5 years ago. It's at least 10 years ago. 10 years ago or more. Don't quote me on that. It's a very long time ago, around a decade. Google made a decision that if Google came across a website that has duplicate content from another website, like word for word, verbatim, and back then, we're talking about like paragraphs at a time. If paragraphs were plagiarized completely, then Google recognizes that the second person who put that up there is probably copying it from the first person who put that up there. So we're going to rank the second person lower on the search result page because they're not providing anything new that this first guy didn't already provide. Now, it's not paragraphs at a time anymore. Now we're getting down to like even words or even like concepts because what's been popular 5 years ago is just rewriting other people's content, and the search engine, that was a way to kind of trick the search engine. But man, Google is a beast. We're talking about millions and millions, if not billions of dollars have been invested into this search engine algorithm. And if you're trying to game the system, if anybody's trying to game the system, they're at risk for being one of those businesses that might get blacklisted from Google at the next update. So original content, you can't go wrong with that. Like if you're making your own content, let's say for instance you're got a lawn care business and you have a lawn care website, you have a blog on your lawn care website, which everybody should have because that's part of the best way to do marketing and so search engine optimization is to have a blog. And the blog is kind of like a thing of the past, but the way that it works in today's atmosphere is that you can constantly keep providing new information and new content for searchers. Now, let's say, for instance, let's use the lawn care example again, right? And we want to use the keyword lawn care in suburbia city metropolis. Like, I know that the example doesn't make sense because the city is in a city, but let's just run with that because I used it already. So, if you are talking about lawn care in this city, and you use that keyword a few different times, and then you also use different aspects, like let's say for instance you want to get into even more advanced targeting, then just talk like you would talk to a regular person in regular human readable language, and don't try to make it so that you're trying to trick Google into showing your result. Like keyword stuffing was a bad thing of the past back in or like late 90s and early 2000s. That's when Google first started coming out, and people were stuffing keywords, like just pages and pages of all the different keywords they can find, and in the hopes of getting Google to show their page up for any one of those keywords. And back then it worked. It genuinely did. But none of those pages still exist because they did not provide genuine usefulness to the audience. So we are in today's version of Google, where you need to be providing actual content and you need to be providing something that people actually want to read. And that goes into the next point, which is don't just have original content. You have to have something that people actually want to read. And when I'm talking about people actually want to read, there's got to be websites that you've been to, right? You've probably looked up something on Google, and you've most definitely in your life, at least once, if you're not, then I don't know what planet you live on, but you've probably looked something up on Google and you have clicked on the first result because the title matches what you were looking for. A lot of the times, those happen to be like research and development type things, or just research in general. Like you're interested in some hobby and you look up what does this hobby do or whatever, and then the result page gives you an example, an explanation, and it breaks down that hobby in full detail, and it's actually very interesting to read because you were already interested in that subject in the first place. So you're reading through the whole article and it's telling you word for word how to get into that hobby. It's telling you what you can do in that hobby, what people to meet in that hobby. You get all this information, and that's what we call genuine value for the viewer, or to the reader in this case. So don't try to make something that's just there to be up. Just put like actual content up that you know people will read. You'll be surprised that like there's an audience for everything. Like there is a customer of ours, right? We have a customer, and like, okay, let me just say it this way, right? There's people who are into anime, and there's people who are into candles. This customer actually has combined those two people, and there's a very small overlap of people who like anime and who like candles, but this customer of ours serves that market. So that tells me there's a market for everything. Like anything you can think of, there's going to be a person who wants to read about what you're talking. So that blew my mind when I saw that this customer actually sells a lot of candles that are anime themed. They're actually very popular on Etsy, and their site is actually very popular among that community. So if that, and I could be a little biased because I don't fully understand that overlap of the community, but that just goes to show like there's a market for everything. So if you offer something that's obscure, even if you think nobody's going to want to read it, there is. We're on a planet with 7 billion people, and it's climbing every single day, and people's interests vary so much on a day-to-day basis that there's got to be someone who's interested in what you want, what you have to offer. Now, the whole reason we're having this conversation, or you're listening to this podcast, is because you're trying to find a way to capitalize on that. And the way to capitalize on that is just create good content. If you're selling a product that serves a very niche market, then you're probably going to be in a very good place. Like this anime candle person, they're probably in a very good place because I don't know any other person that sells anime candles. Like it's so niche. So anybody who is interested in that kind of product is going to stumble upon our customer. And I think that's why by default they are doing really well. So they're the only person that supplies that demand of the market. But let's say you're in a more competitive market, right? And that's probably going to be the case. The case is that you're probably in real estate investing, or you are in pressure washing, or like even yard signs, for instance. We're not new, or we're not the only people that do what we do. There's a lot of people that do what we do. In fact, there's hundreds just in Houston alone. So when we're talking about being competitive and how do we set ourselves apart, like we have to provide value in other way. We have to provide value in unique ways, and it's not always through SEO, but SEO does have a part to play in it, because another thing that really matters is how long do people spend on the website. That's a very key indicator that Google has, because let's say you're on your Google Chrome browser, right? You're probably logged into Gmail or some other way of giving Google your information, your browsing history, your activity history. And you know how the European Union made that crazy thing a couple years ago where all the websites now have to display that cookie display, and if they don't, it's going to rank lower on the search engine results page. Well, you know why? Because Google and other search engines are tracking all of your activity. So you literally have to be giving your consent by hitting that accept button, that you agree that you are letting this website give your information to Google, who is tracking your every move. And honestly, like whether you're for that or against it doesn't matter, because it's just a part of the world that we live in. So we got to find a way to utilize that to our advantage when we're in the business. So these websites are asking for your cookies, and you hit accept, and you're signed into your Google account on Gmail, and you're on your Google Chrome browser, so all your activity is being logged, right? And the smallest things, like from how long you spend on the website to how far down the website you actually go and visit, how much, when it comes to like how long you spend on the website, and how long down you go on the website, that gives two different pieces of information, but they go hand in hand, because it's telling Google that this website, a lot of people tend to go there and they read all the way down to the bottom. So this website must be good, and we should show it to more people. And so when the next person searches for that same word, the website that's doing well is going to show up higher. And then it's just like a repeat cycle over and over and over again. So the way that you can actually initiate these is to provide articles, research articles. Like, people are always researching all the time on how to do stuff on the internet, right? Like, no matter what, I research things like 5-10 times a day, maybe. In fact, if not more. Like, when I'm at home, I'm asking my Google Home, hey Google, what is this? Or hey Google, what is that? And my phone probably just picked up right now because I said that. But anyway, the point is that there's a lot of information out there, and you want to be constantly adding information to the internet, because if you have content that was given like 10 years ago, if it's not still relevant, if people are not still visiting it because it's not relevant, then it's going to be going further and further and further down the search results page, unless you have a very unique situation where, and I've seen it before, I've seen situations where I've seen an article posted in 2009 come up in the search results page of something that I searched in 2021. So it is possible, like, it does happen, but it's very niche. So you're going to want to constantly add new things, but obviously don't like repeat the same thing as you did before, and especially don't repeat the same thing somebody else did. Be original. One thing you could do is to provide research and like your own studies or your own experiences. You can't go wrong with anecdotal experiences, because your experience is your experience. And especially if you are serving, let's use the pressure washing example again. Let's say you were doing an experiment on which cleaner works better than the other, and you decide to run an actual study, not like a lab-controlled study, but like a with real variables, with real scientific method and stuff. Let's say you actually did that, and you posted your results. Like, this is what you tested, this is the results that you find. Then you post that on your pressure washing website, and you're going to serve two purposes that way. One, you're going to get all the pressure washing people who are researching this question to get to your website, because you're the only person who has that question. You're the only person who has answered that question. Actually, there's probably more people who have answered it, but in the grand scheme of things, the way that you answered it, since you did a scientific study and you show pictures and you have all this stuff, your search results is organically going to grow higher and higher and higher on the search results page, because that is providing genuine value to pressure washing people. Now, you're trying to reach you're trying to reach customers, right? With SEO, you're not trying to reach other pressure washing people, but the work that you're doing for that is bringing enough people who are searching for this question that relates to pressure washing, that triggers another algorithm thing in Google, where it's like the social proof. It's like, okay, these types of customers or these type of readers are going to this website, so why don't we try sending this website to these types of readers? So Google will start showing this website and this web page to a person who wouldn't have typically seen this before. So now maybe somebody is searching for their own information at home, trying to figure out which Home Depot cleaner that they're trying to use on their own house, but they see your page instead, and they go through the whole page, and at the end they see that you do pressure washing services in their area, and they're like, oh wow, this guy did all this research and he's really smart, so he must know how to do pressure washing really well. Why don't I just hire him? So it's not a direct means by any means. Like using SEO is kind of a long-term game. Like, we're talking about a couple years, maybe at least 6 months. We're talking about at least 6 months, depending on your industry, depending on how niche you are. It's like a 3 months, 6 months, maybe a year-long game that you need to be consistent with, and hopefully even after that too, because SEO doesn't stop. It's something that is it's being constantly updated. If you have an e-commerce website, you're constantly updating product descriptions. That counts too. So when it comes down to it, you got to provide value to viewers and readers. And another thing, product information is going to be really good. Like, really describe the product, describe your service. Like, how is your service different from somebody else's, and like differentiating yourself using like unique keywords. I can't think of any keywords for another business off the top of my head, but it's like things that people aren't normally searching for. Because if you use keywords that people aren't usually searching for, but there is enough people that do search for it, but nobody else wants to target that keyword, you have the full open playground for that, because nobody else wants that keyword. So you just have to find the ones that's going to work for you and capitalize on it. But again, if you're looking on Google, Google's actually prioritizing local search results higher than than other results too, depending on what you're searching for. Like, if you're actually searching for a service, if a customer is actually searching for your service actively, then if you have a Google My Business page and you have constantly updated content on your website and you have social proof on Facebook and you're providing genuine value to your viewers if they visit your website and they see the pictures on your Google My Business page, we just talked about all these things I just mentioned all these things we talked about today in one sentence. And if that paints the picture for you, then that's right, because that's exactly what it is. Because you're building social proof, you're building organic information, you're building organic audience, I should say, and you're giving original information. So what's there not to like on Google's side? You're not doing anything wrong, because you're not trying to game the system. You're not trying to do like these weird tricks to make your site pop up higher, which is never a good idea. Like, I've seen big businesses that were very big in their industry get completely taken off of Google because what they did was just not okay in Google's eyes. And honestly, it's really sad. It's there you go, my phone just picked up. That's funny. I said okay in Google's eyes, but man, okay, anyway. So it's kind of sad. It's really sad, because these are big businesses. Like, these had multiple employees. Like, I'm talking about 50 something employees, and they all of a sudden go missing from the face of Google. So it sucks, because what happened to that business? How are they going to get those customers now? It just opens up, but that's the nature of business, Like, if you take that risk, you have to be willing to pay the price if it does not go your way. And then again, if you're in business, you're taking a risk anyway, but take the logical risks, which is to like start a business and actually be an entrepreneur. But I never recommend taking those crazy risks, because the risks like doing gamey or fishy stuff for Google, that's just a one-way ticket to Google blacklist. Honestly, whether if it's not now, in 2, 3, 5 years, it's not sustainable. So if you're just a fly-by-night company, yeah, go for it. Nobody's probably going to really care, but you're not building a brand, and you're probably not listening to this podcast anyway if you're a fly-by-night company. But if you are a real company who wants to grow, and you want to generate value for your community, and you want to generate value for your industry, then, take these tips. These aren't advanced tips by any means. These are not even beginner's tips. These are just fundamentals. So hope you could learn what you could from this podcast, and hope you guys come to the next one. Take care, everybody. Have a good one.